Sean here with BaseMint Comics. It is Wednesday, March 18th. Not only is it New Comic Book Day, but I awoke to a fantastic Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer. It was awesome. I loved it. I have no want to film myself watching a trailer, so reaction videos are not ever happening for me. But I did love it. I mean, I would think it would have to be pretty terrible for me not to love it. But I really dug it. Very excited. I already took the day off of work at the beginning of the year because I knew it was coming, so I'm pretty jazzed for that. Excited for New Comic Book Day. And weather has been an absolute roller coaster here. And so for the sake of the little guy, no bike ride today, because it's like, we took him out the other day and it was like 70 degrees and 50 degrees and 70 degrees. And then all of a sudden today it was like, feels like 12. And so I was like, I can't in good conscience do that to him. So we're going to cut to a montage of hits from the past 6 months of riding up to the comic book shop. And one miss, because one night when we were out riding, he full on... upon rewatching the footage, he leans one way and then quickly leans the wrong way when we're going on a turn. And it was the first time that he ever rolled, which was, the first time I ever had to have one of those. We're not going to tell Mom about this conversations with him. Handled it like a champ, but I did laugh because it was someone had asked me like 2 nights before this. They were like, ever had any problems with like accidents with that little trailer thing? And I was like, not a one. Like, never had a problem with it. It's great. And then the next time we went riding, poor kid rolled, but there's a good little roll cage in there, and so he was fine. It is what it is, We're giving him an 80s childhood. Cut to the bike ride up to the shop throughout the year. And then I'll be back here to talk about some of last week's books, some cool stuff that showed up in the mail, some stuff that I got for the collection, and new books.
Into the night, it's my heart that fused this fire. Time cuts deadlines deep into my mind. In my thoughts full of their lies. But all I hear is there are voices in my head screaming better left for dead, but they can't stop the beating of my heart. All I need is a spark to start this fire. All I need is a spark to start this fire. All I need is a spark to start this fire. Oh, let's turn it up right now. Till I grow immune to it, to it, to it, to it. It's my heart that fuels this fire. So I keep taking their functions, but I still hear them. There are voices in my head screaming better left for dead, but they can't stop the beating of my heart. All I need is a spark to start this fire. All I need is a spark to start this fire. All I need is a spark to start this fire. Oh, let's turn it up right now. There are voices in my head screaming better left for dead. They can't stop the beating of my heart.
So we are back from the comic book shop. Tea has been made in this Fantastic Four as a family band cup that I love. And so now it's time to get into it. Books from last week and stuff that I picked up this week. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. Last week was tough for me. There was a book that came out, X-Men United, that I was excited about, but it was a little bit of a Schrodinger's cat thing where I was like, if I don't read this, it is in my head what I want it to be. And if I do read it, then it's either great or it's bad. And I was like, tune in next week to find out, and you're about to. So it was the first week in a very, very long time where I had the stack of new books and knew for a fact that the thing that was calling me was Corner Box Classics, that I was like jazzed to read those. And this brought up this really difficult kind of like existential crisis that I've never really like at times when comic books took a downturn for me, at least new books. There were always some books there where I was like, well, this one, like, yeah, that one's dud, but this one's good, and last week was, I don't know what was up with the scheduling, but I was just like, yeah, not into that. And it felt more like a chore than it had ever. And I've throughout my life, I've been an X-Men guy as long as I can remember. That's what got me into comic books. That's what got me biking up to shops when I was a kid. I have dipped in and out of the rest of the Marvel universe, stopped pulls, dropped titles, all that type of stuff. But the X-Men was the constant. And I mean to the point where like, even there were a couple of years, early 2000s, when I was like gone and on tour and not home. And I mean gone for like extensive, there's a young me on tour with the legendary punk band X. They did this big reunion tour and were gone for 6 months and blah. And even then when I was on the road, like my shop was holding books for me and I would pick up stuff when we were in different cities. That was what I was wearing merch, like barely packed a suitcase so that I could have room for picking up comic books as we went city to city and all that stuff. So even then, even when I was like very busy and I was still picking up my X-Men books because I didn't want to miss anything and was still and there were some dark times. Chuck Austin, I wasn't keen on the whole Inhumans taking over thing. And I guess it's one of those things where as I read the classics, it's kind of hammering home more and more that like, for so long, the X-Men have just been like fighting amongst each other. And then this came out and I was like, oh, X-Men United. Like maybe Marvel got the message that like, hey, I'm tired of seeing two teams of X-Men fight each other. Why can't they fight bad guys? And this was not it. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. I struggle talking new comics versus some classics, because even the worst, even Micronauts, where I'm like, I'm not loving this, still brings me some type of joy. And there's occasionally with new books, a lot of new books, I feel like they're putting in a lackluster effort. And I'm not the type of guy, nor have I ever been, to just trash stuff. Like, I know people, I've got friends and stuff that like legitimately hate watch TV shows. And I'm just like, I don't got time for that. and or will like watch movies that they know are bad and are just like, and I mean, I get that there's like a, like, oh, I like a bad, like, one of my absolute favorite films of all time is Buckaroo Banzai. Okay, and is that high art? No, but I love it. Okay, there's no like, I'm watching this because it's bad. I genuinely enjoy that film. But I have friends who are like, oh, this movie is terrible, and I'm watching it and making fun of it, a la Mystery Science Theater 3000. And if that's their bag, that's cool, but it's just never been mine. And there's enough channels out there that are like, let me tell you what's wrong with the industry, and I hate them. And I hate when folks engage with that because it doesn't do anything other than get everybody in a anger circle jerk about comic books. And I guess the point is that like, this was a real bum out for me. This was like Krakoa Light. Like, there isn't a school, it's in the mindscape. And this is basically like, they had this title, Exceptional X-Men, which was Kitty and Emma, and it got canceled after like 10 or 12 issues. It wasn't very good. I stuck with it because I'm an X-Men completist, and I'm trying to break that habit. And this is just, they just renamed it. It's like the same creative team, and they just slapped a different name on it, and we're like, here it is. And it was just as good as Exceptional X-Men, which, wasn't that great. So I struggle with, like, there was a time period where it got dark with the X-Men books where I was like, this is it. But all the talking heads and think pieces that were written about comic books at the time were like, we're in the death rattle. And so I was like, well, I'd like to be there for the final Wednesday when, new comics are dead, like all these channels say. So I was like, I'll write it out. And it doesn't seem like that. Like, I look now and there's like kids out there buying their dorks and their battle beasts, and I'm jazzed for them. I mean, like, I see a lot of these like TikTok kids, and I'm like, oh man, like, I'm a fossil, so I don't get it. But I get it from the fact that I grew up in the 90s. And so seeing like, somebody will post in like a comic book social media group where they'll be like, there was a lineup outside my store. And I'm like, thank God. Like, I want the comics industry to continue. But when they're putting out X-Men books like this, I'm like, when do I get off the ride? And this has been something that I've been like, I've been reading comics for so long that it's like weird. It's weird to even like, this is the closest I've ever been to be like, but there are books out there that I like. I just got to be more discerning, I guess. Anyways, it was just, like I said, last week's stack of books was just like, man, they picked everything where I'm ambivalent about it. So it made this week, like the books from last week, like really, really difficult. And I know there's like greatness out there. There was a, it's that, like I said, that was just a rough week. X-Men United did exactly what I hoped that it wouldn't do, which was like further my downward spiral on this. But it made me be a little bit more discerning this week. That's what happened. So I was still very excited to go to the comic book shop to pick up my new books, but I put 2 back on the shelf, which that's a big deal for me. So this is what I picked up this week, and genuinely, I am excited to read every single one of these. So I grabbed Amazing Spider-Man. This is where I'm like excited to read these, but I don't like Carnage. I've decided that like this homicidal like symbiote thing bums me out. So I've really been enjoying Joe Kelly's run on Spider-Man up until this point. This is like the record scratching moment for me where I'm like, I don't care about symbiotes. And I grew up in the 90s, didn't care then, don't care now. I saw none of the Venom films. I could care less. That's just me. Not really my Spider-Man thing. So this is let's get through this and on to the next Spider-Man arc, because symbiotes don't do anything for me. I just looked over at a book that I picked up this week to like complete some runs, and that I'm going to show off in a little bit. It just made me laugh because I'm going to look like an absolute hypocrite. All right, a book that I am absolutely jazzed for, and I love this writer, and it's Captain America #8. I did flip through it. Art's not great. The rest of the series so far, the art has been great, but this looks very, very, very Iceman Omega, childlike, cartoony, and it's, you know, I don't know. It just, the other artists were better. But I really like Chip Zdarsky. And I was actually thinking about this the other day. Last week I talked about the end of the Avengers title and how it was weird not having an Avengers title out there. And I was like, who's going to take over Avengers? I would really like it if Chip Zdarsky got a chance to write Avengers. I know he's doing the Armageddon thing. So I'm hoping that spins out into a new Avengers title. And I would think it was great if Chip Zdarsky got to write that. I'd be really excited about picking up Avengers if that was the case. Cyclops #2. I enjoyed Cyclops #1. It's the typical trope of Cyclops gets in an accident, crashes a Blackbird. I think it was a Quinjet technically. His eyes get, he loses his visor and he's running around away from the Reavers trying to keep a young mutant alive. So that's fun for a miniseries. Infernal Hulk #5. This keeps showing up in my pull box. And I keep buying it because I'm like, I like Kev Walker, and some of the Avengers showed up in the last issue. So I didn't dislike it. So I was like, hey, I'll keep on giving this a shot. That's fun. The Mortal Thor #8. This has been a really fun title. That I have been enjoying, a good continuation of the Immortal Thor, and I like kind of this whole nobody remembers Thor thing has been fun. X-Men #327. I wasn't particularly thrilled about the cliffhanger ending of #2 because I liked the character that they did something to, so I'm hoping for the best in this issue and hoping that it's better than X-Men United. And then X-Men of Apocalypse #3. This is straight out of the 90s. Simone DeMaio draws just like, is like a Joe Madureira light. And obviously that does it for me because I was a kid during all of that. And Jeff Loeb's writing this, and I like Jeff Loeb's writing. So there's that. I initially was thinking about picking up The Century, but did not get that because I was just like, yeah, I don't care. And then I got the last issue of Sorcerer Supreme, and the Goblin Queen was in that. So I was like, oh, well, that makes up for it since I'm an X-Men guy. But I was just like, I don't care. And I've got to start, I have to start making cuts, especially with how much I'm enjoying. I got to make sure that the good stuff that I'm reading, I love, that I'm jazzed and excited to talk about it in the equal way that I am when I discuss Corner Box Classics. So these are the books that I picked up this week. I am hoping that they are all excellent. Fingers crossed. So let's see other things that are happening around here. I talked a little bit in Corner Box Classics. I rearranged a bunch of the stuff. Got a bunch of new bookshelves and new setup in the office. I wound up, we'll actually talk about two of the things that I picked up this week, so you know the one that I was laughing about, where I was like, what a hypocrite. I've been in the process of, I've had complete runs of stuff because some stuff was in Epic Collection, but I've been slowly but surely chipping away at getting the issues that were contained in those Epic Collections in single issue format. And so, this week, I picked up Amazing Spider-Man #316, which was annoyingly pricier than it should be, just because it's got a stupid symbiote. on the cover. But it was the last issue out of that particular Epic collection that I did not have in single issue format. And the nice thing is that there are people out there who just have Epic collections, like where my bookcases are, single issues in there. Obviously there's some hardcovers in there, and it's mostly because for the X-Men stuff I would double dip on, I don't know if you can actually read what those are, but every single trade in there is a event or crossover, and I tend to I would double dip on those. Gotten rid of some because I'm like, it was this thing where I like convinced myself when we didn't have a child and a ton of disposable income, where I was like, oh, well, if we go on trips, I can just bring the hardcover or the trades. And now, like, I don't, I do take comics with me when we go on vacations and stuff, but they don't need to be, I don't need to be double dipping on stuff. Those days are over. So one of the Epic collections that I had a pretty solid just Epic collection run with issues here and there was Peter David's Incredible Hulk. And so I was like, I've got, a good chunk of it, but let's see what I could get for it. And lo and behold, a couple of those were like out of print and people were looking for them. So they went for a pretty penny. And so I was able to flip that, and without having to spend too much on the back end, I was able to use the money made from flipping the Epic collections to get Peter David's entire run in single issues, the issues that I was missing. And one of those that I was missing, I had actually had, and took it to a show, and I sold it at the show to fund me and Hank going to this comic book show, and that was Incredible Hulk 340. So I wound up winning an auction to get that one back in the personal collection. So now the Peter David run, and actually I think Cornerbox Classics has an Incredible Hulk issue in it this weekend. I think it's issue 275. And I think from that point until the end of Peter David's run, like the end of volume 1 of Hulk, I have every single issue. So that's getting pulled into Cornerbox Classics on the regular. And here's the part that's really like, I've never actually read Peter David's run of Incredible Hulk, so getting this run was like I like Peter David's work on X Factor, and I've loved the Spider-Man stuff that I've read of Peter David's, but I've never read any of his Hulk other than like a smattering issue here and there, like during the 90s when I was reading X-Men, and they would cross over, like the Onslaught stuff and all that. So in Cornerbox Classics, you will get to see my first time reaction to Peter David's Hulk, which I am pretty excited to read that. And I'd never really been a Hulk guy because, like, I don't know, like I just I would love to have a conversation with someone who like loves the Hulk the way that I love the X-Men, to try to like maybe get some of that Hulk love and but for me, I'm not an angry guy. So like so the Hulk was sort of one of those things where I was like, I think to really get that character, I'd have to have some rage in me. And life happened these last couple of years. And lo and behold, there's a tiny little bit of rage in me. So I'm like, I'll focus that on Hulk. And by that, I mean the state of the world, not anything personally. Yeah, so that is, let's see, new books. Few things that I picked up. I also got, I also grabbed a run of Kazar the Savage from the 80s. I had a couple issues that like first introduced Belasco. I talked about those on Cornerbox Classics. But I wound up finding a really cheap run of that, so I grabbed that because I'm a big Savage Land guy. And so I'm going to pull that into Corner Box Classics 2, which means it's going to be a little bit like Micronauts, where I'm going to be reading that from the beginning and kind of meeting it in the middle as I do that. And then on the back issue front, I'm finishing up Inhumans Astonishing Tales, which is what inspired me to search out that Kazar series. And I can't think of what the title of the book is, but it's like a 15 or 20, it's like a monster book that has a bunch of Morbius stories in it. And I got those from the Cousin collection, and I was going to read those. And those are all like, I got those after I started doing the videos of Corner Box Classics. So, like, can't really pull them in because we're already past the time period that they're, but I would still like to read them, because once I finish those series and get caught up on Kazar, that means that I will have read everything in my collection previous to 1982, which is what I'm in right now. And that's kind of nice to just be like, if you were to look at anything previous to 1982 in my collection, I'd be like, oh, I read that. And there's nothing kind of hanging out. So that's cool. Yeah. Then, obviously, one of my favorite channels is Mr. McGroovy's channel with his People with Issues. He has one I'm very excited about coming out today, which is Robert Emmons, I think is how you say his name, but the thing is Sequential Artifacts. And let me tell you, McGroovy mentioned that to me, which led me to that channel. He was like, you got to check this out. And I checked it out, and there was like highs and lows, and oh my God, my channel is amateur hour compared to how fantastic this was. I even made my neighbor watch, because my neighbor's a big Nightwing guy. And I was like, dude, I know you don't really go for the whole YouTube comic book community thing, but check this video out. And I sent it to him, and he texted me back, which was nice because he texted me back in the, he didn't like text me back 2 minutes later. He clearly watched the thing and then was like, holy shit, this was incredible. And I was like, right? I'm not a DC guy, but I feel like I'm like you're going to meet me at the fence. You're going to hand me some Nightwings, and I'm going to read some Nightwings. That's how good this video was. And so today, McGroovy is putting out an interview with him, and I'm super jazzed to read it to watch it, because McGroovy's great at interviewing. I love his People with Issues thing because I just love hearing other comic book fans' tales of like how they got into it, what they love. It's like there's similar through lines for a lot of them, but it's so interesting to get everyone's unique perspective and different experiences, and I just really appreciate it. Anyways, this is all to say, McGroovy very nicely sent me a package in the mail, and I was super excited to get it. I didn't know what was coming. He wouldn't tell me. My guess was that it was going to be a box full of DC's All-Star Superman. Thankfully, it was not, because I would have had to have lied and been like, yeah, I read it, and instead just had a bonfire. But in case you're just here, which would be weird for the new comics, because I don't often have a lot positive to say about them. But if you've never checked out Corner Box Classics, here's the deal. Years back, I decided, like, holy crap, I'm tired of just buying back issues and not reading them. And it sort of converged where I had finished long-running series, Avengers, Fantastic Four, Amazing Spider-Man. And I'd done years previous an entire chronological story order read, built this huge spreadsheet that showed how best continuity would flow with the different X-Men titles. I still have the spreadsheet in case anyone ever wants to do a comprehensive, and I mean, when I say comprehensive, I mean I'm talking every single X title ever created between 1963 and the present spreadsheet to show you how to read that to where continuity would make the most sense. And I did that, and the way that I did that was I put this extra stipulation on it of like, when I read the X-Men, I'm only going to read, or I'm going to listen to time period specific music. It was like this big thing that I was doing for myself to sort of like expand a little bit of my own personal musical knowledge beyond like the things that I was used to, and just kind of get an idea of how pop culture affected comic books. You know, could you see a through line in popular culture in that? And it was great. And it wasn't like I was listening to these records on Spotify. Like, I looked up Billboard releases and picked up like got a pretty big record collection. The record collection is just like the comic book collection. I decided to get the two heaviest things in the world to move. But it's expansive in the same way that the comic book thing is. Anyways, so then when I was done with the X-Men thing, I was like, all right. And I started reading basically everything, you know, Fantastic Four, #1 in 1961, and then did the thing that I'm doing on Corner Box Classics from 61 forward, where I would just read whatever came out that week as though I was a kid back then, picking them up week to week. But the show lined up, I pulled the show into the channel at my birth month, which was October of 81. And so McGroovy lovingly sent me a box of stuff that was curated to my birth month. So he sent me some 45s. This Jam classic. Yeah, Absolute Beginners by the Jam. And some other 45s from songs that topped the British charts in 1981, which was awesome. And then he sent me books that were, like, when you opened them up, said October. And they're Pence copies, which I thought, so there's Marvel Tales, and a Conan, and the Master of Kung Fu, and this Kazar. This is the series that I just picked up, so I'm going to slot this Pence copy in there. A Ghost Rider Pence copy, a Mighty Thor Pence copy. There was also a Doctor Strange in there, but I have that. That is now in with the Doctor Strange stuff in my room, kind of hanging up, because I framed some of the stuff that he sent me. Werewolf, never read that. Didn't even know it existed. But that was pretty cool. And then these were the things that I just thought, like, all of this is very cool. He sent me a Scottish children's book for Henry. And then these, like, the British weekly black and white reprints. I've never held one of these in my hands and just thought this was awesome. And one of the things, we're going to cut here for a second. One of the things that I love is seeing pencils, okay? Like, just straight pencils before inks. So one of the things that I love is IDW doing those artifact editions. So I have Dave Cockrum's X-Men Artifact Edition, which is, just pages upon pages of beautiful penciled work by Dave Cockrum. Got John Byrne's X-Men, obviously. Just great stuff. Paul Smith's, because, who doesn't love Paul Smith pencils? Jim Lee's, because that's what I grew up with. Point is that I love seeing pencils. And if you are like, IDW artist editions are pricey, I totally get that. So one of the ways that I was like, I could get cheap penciled copies by picking up old essentials. Like, I have every single one of these X-Men issues, but these essentials are basically pencils and inks of classes, so you can still see, like, oh man, look how great this looks. So these were very cool to me because I was like, oh man, I get some like Mike Zeck Captain America pencils and inks, and just like all the way from Scotland. That's adorable. I love it. So I got one hanging up over now in the Captain America section already, because I was like, that needs to be framed and hung up, and I really appreciate that, and I think that's cool. And, you know, best thing out of this so far has been the friends we've made along the way. So that is it for this week. Got loads of cool stuff in the mail that somebody sent me, which was adorable. Got loads of stuff in the mail which I paid for, not as adorable. But I appreciate having those books in the collection. And I'm excited to get into Peter David's Hulk run. I'm excited to be able to read some Corner Box Classic stuff. It's a I know there's an Avengers one coming up because it's one of my favorite Avengers covers. So yeah, that was new books this week. I was finally able to put at least 2 titles back on the rack. Bought some back issues, mostly just, it was just stuff that I framed. Already had the issues, but they were covers that I liked that represented at a time period in Fantastic Four and Iron Man that I enjoyed. So I wanted those hung up in their respective sections in the room. So that sort of made up, I guess, for the 2 new books that I dropped. So excited for new books. Still more excited for Corner Box Classics. Sorry there was no new ride this Sunday. We were bummed about it, but that's the way it goes. I gotta go hang out with the little guy before we head out for the evening. Yeah, and then we'll be back this weekend with Corner Box Classics, and you should go watch the Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer because it was really good. So hope everybody has a great new comic book day Wednesday. Go check out McGroovy's People with Issues. Should be a good one. That's what I'm going to do. Forget the kid. I'm going to go watch that. Thanks for taking this ride with us. Bye.